Welcome to NACTV Reads the News. My name is Gwen Jacobsen and I'm one of many volunteers that help create programming for our station. NACTV can be seen on MTS Channel 30 or 1030, Westman Cable Channel 117, Bell Satellite Channel 592, or online at nactv.tv. These programs are made possible by our volunteers, staff, advertisers, as well as donations made by you, the viewers. If you are enjoying your NACTV experience, please consider supporting us by either donation or volunteering. You can contact our office at 204-476-2639 or at NACTV at wcgwave.ca. This week's edition of the Neepawa Banner and Press is dated Friday, August 27th, 2021. And the front page news says the show will go on at the Roxy. And there's a picture of Dale DeAth, one of the Neepawa Roxy projectionists, firing up the theater's projector for a test run this week on Tuesday, August the 24th. The article is written by Kira Patterson. The Roxy Theatre is bringing movie night back to Neepawa. After a year and a half of being closed to the public, the Neepawa Theatre Centre, or NTC, the board of volunteers that operates the Roxy, is planning for opening night on Friday, October the 1st. Of course, the opening depends on what the COVID-19 restrictions will be at the time, but if health orders allow for it, NTC will go ahead with getting moviegoers back into the theatre. Kate Jackman-Atkinson, board chair of NTC, noted that they made the decision last week. We kind of had initially thought about wanting to open earlier in September, but with schools getting back in session, we didn't really want to overload either our volunteers or patrons. So we thought we'd let everyone kind of get a little back into the flow of things and then we would proceed. We're really excited to see people back in the theater to see some movies again on the big screen. And it goes on to say, before the theater gets up and running again, NTC will be holding an open house on September 1st from 6:30 to 7:30 at the Roxy. It's kind of going to be an opportunity for existing volunteers to find out a little bit more about what reopening is going to look like. We're also hoping that it'll be a chance for people who are thinking about volunteering to get some information and hopefully, sign up. During the closure, a number of long-time volunteers stepped down, so NTC is hoping the open house will bring in some more volunteers. There's tons of people in the community who have put in a lot of time into the theater, and for that we're very appreciative. But we're looking for new people who would be interested in either committing to a weekend or being on our list for when people are on short notice looking for additional people to join teams. So kind of a flexible amount of commitment there. But we're hoping that it might generate some interest in people looking to volunteer. She added that anyone interested in learning about how the theater operates and seeing the upgrades they've done during the closure is welcome to attend. We want to show off and thank the sponsors who have contributed to our COVID bathroom upgrade. We're also getting a square for digital payments, so we kind of want to show that off too. She added that they've also finished installing new LED lights for the stage, which had been a project they'd been working on for a while. Jackman Atkinson noted that there will be some changes in the operation when the Roxy is open to the public again. The first thing people might notice is a difference in some of the prices. We have increased our prices a little bit at both the concession and the movie admission, partially because the prices haven't been increased in at least about 10 years. As well, on the admission side, our capacity is obviously limited. And on the concession side, we found that on some of our products, we weren't really making any money at all with the way prices have gone. She added that prices will still be reasonable as NTC is keeping in mind their mission of affordable family entertainment. Of course, there will be some changes to comply with COVID-19 restrictions as well. With the public health orders known as of publication deadline, they are restricted to 50% capacity in the theatre. If restrictions change for theatres, Jackman Atkinson stressed that they will be abiding by whatever the rules are at the time. She added, because it can get congested through the ticket area and concession, we would like people to wear masks until they are seated. Then, of course, they can take them off and enjoy their popcorn and drinks. She noted that they are also asking moviegoers to come a bit earlier than they normally would, as traffic through the lobby and concession might be a little slower to try and avoid congestion and allow for physical distancing. In the meantime, the Roxy is still open for private rentals. If you just can't wait to watch a movie on the big screen, this is available for anyone. And while NTC doesn't have any upcoming popcorn sales planned like they had done earlier in the year, Jackman Atkinson said that they're open to group orders as long as it's a large enough order to use a full batch of popcorn. If anyone has any questions about volunteering or what the theatre experience will look like come October, they are encouraged to reach out to NTC or attend the open house on September 1st. To contact the Roxy, people can email admin@neepawaroxy.ca for any inquiries about rentals, volunteers, or anything else. Manitoba brings back masks. Masks will once again be mandatory in all indoor settings across the province. As well, all government employees working with vulnerable people must now be fully vaccinated or face strict regular testing under Manitoba's latest public health orders. Premier Brian Pallister announced the changes to Manitoba's COVID-19 rules on Tuesday, August 24th. The Premier said that the new rules are coming in response to the threat posed by the more contagious Delta variant. He said, "We're in a serious situation. We're taking preemptive action because we want to avoid the magnitude of what we saw in the second and third wave," Pallister said. The province will put indoor mask requirements in place in schools, and there will be an expanded list of activities and services that can only be accessed if an individual is fully immunized. Those further details were expected to be made public by the weekend. As well, the new public health orders will require all designated provincial public service workers who have ongoing contact with vulnerable populations, especially children, to be fully immunized or submit to testing up to 3 times per week. Designated workers include the following: direct health care providers and workers, including but not limited to physicians, nurses, allied health professionals, support service staff, and other deemed appropriate for each site/area/program in public and private healthcare settings, and direct care providers, as defined as anyone who may come in contact with patients, residents, clients, patient-resident-client care environments, patient-resident-client care equipment, and blood and body fluids. Also, educational workers, including teachers, school and educational support staff, practicum students, bus drivers, and custodial staff. Also, child care workers, including staff and practicum students working in licensed early learning and child care facilities. Also, public servants and funded agency employees who work in high-risk settings with direct ongoing contact with the public or clients, such as those who work in congregate/residential settings or group homes, or work with vulnerable populations including children who have to enter the home of a client or who regularly visit sites with vaccine mandates in place as part of their duties, and Manitoba Justice employees who work with vulnerable people and in correctional facilities. Designated employees who are not fully immunized or cannot provide proof of vaccination will need to undergo regular COVID-19 testing up to 3 times a week for full-time employees and provide proof of a negative test result before they can resume working. These employees will be required to be fully immunized with 2 doses of COVID-19 vaccine. The first dose needs to be completed by September 7th, the first day of school, and the second dose completed by October 17th. Next, we have big ideas are back in Neepawa. What's the big idea? It returns after 1-year hiatus by Owen Devereaux. Local entrepreneurs once again have the chance to enter the Dragon's Den and showcase their small business ideas. The Town of Neepawa's Economic Development Office has confirmed What's the Big Idea will make its long-awaited return to the community on October the 14th at the Royal Canadian Legion No. 23 in Neepawa. The concept began locally in 2015 and was inspired by the Canadian television program Dragon's Den. It involves entrepreneurs pitching their ideas to a panel of judges with the chance of receiving grants for their business propositions. What's the Big Idea has proven to be an extremely successful endeavor over the last few years, growing in both participation and regional reach. The lone reason that What's the Big Idea did not proceed in 2020 was related to the gathering size restrictions that were in place at the time from the provincial government due to COVID-19. Marilyn Crew, the Economic Development Officer, or EDO, with the Town of Neepawa, told the Banner and Press that with those rules now revoked, she's very excited about being able to move ahead with the entrepreneurial showcase in 2021. She said, I feel as though What's the Big Idea has become a significant part of our entrepreneurship community, and when we couldn't hold it last year, I was disappointed for sure, as were several interested entrepreneurs looking forward to participating, stated Crew. So now, seeing the health rules as they stand, allowing us to move forward, we have permission to move ahead with the planning. Of course, we know that at any moment we could have the plug pulled on public gatherings, but as of right now, I'm full steam ahead. Crew noted that while the preparations for the return of What's the Big Idea are still in the very preliminary stages, the early response from interested participants and sponsors has still been enthusiastic. And it goes on to say, in the 5 previous What's the Big Idea showcases, $48,650 in cash and prizes has been distributed to 34 different businesses. For this year, over $40,000 in grants and prizes will be distributed, with Crew indicating that an additional incentive will be a part of this year's competition. For the appropriate eligible business, a lot on Neepawa's Industrial Park is on the table. Council discussed it last year, but then we were unable to proceed. There will be very clear parameters around the kind of business that will be eligible to win that prize, but it's there and it's a $30,000 value. The business would have to build within a certain period of time and enter into a development agreement with the town. But still, that is something that is on the table for this year, said Crew. She noted that she is looking forward to helping entrepreneurs develop their ideas and give them guidance on how to present their ideas effectively to impress the panel. The registration deadline has been set for October the 7th. For those wanting to get involved, they are asked to contact crew at 204-476-7607 or edo@neepawa.ca. What's the Big Idea is open to entrepreneurs from Neepawa, Minnedosa, and elsewhere across the region. And here we have a picture of Smile Pinoy Foods, which was one of the businesses that was kick-started by What's the Big Idea. Now, the travel and entertainment section. Help, our roof is leaking, submitted by the Margaret Lawrence home. A much-needed repair to replace our roof at the Margaret Lawrence home is scheduled for the end of September. To keep this old house in order, we need your help. Any donations to the Margaret Lawrence home of $50 or more will be issued a tax receipt. Donations can be made in person until September the 6th or mailed to the Margaret Lawrence Home Committee, P.O. Box 2099, Neepawa, Manitoba, ROJ 1HO. Why is the Margaret Lawrence home an important part of Neepawa's history and future? Margaret Lawrence, or Peggy Wemyss, was born and raised in Neepawa. For 9 years, she lived with her stepmother and grandparents in the brick house at 312 First Avenue before leaving after high school graduation to embark on a path that would lead to major literary accomplishments and recognition worldwide. She is the primary reason that Neepawa is the place where stories take a beautiful turn. In 1986, this house, pictured here, was transformed into the Margaret Lawrence home, a museum celebrating her life and work and a living center for cultural events in the area. Over the years, tens of thousands of visitors have come to the home, some casual tourists and some devoted fans of the novels which tell of an iconic prairie town, Manawanka, whose inspiration came from Margaret's early years in Neepawa. During our off-season, events such as Manitoba author readings, teas, trivia nights, and an annual Canada Reads event have been organized over the years to provide fun and informative events for local residents. The home is a provincially designated heritage site, and Margaret herself was designated as a person of national significance in 2017. Plaques commemorating both these designations can be found in the front yard of the house. The museum is open to the public during the summer months and brings visitors to our community from all across the country and beyond. Recognition as a Manitoba Star attraction also brings travelers into Neepawa to visit the house and explore other great features of Neepawa. I'll come back to that later. There's an interesting picture right here. It states the Neepawa Boys Band of 1919, history with the Beautiful Plains Museum. Is there a band quite like a marching band? Meet the Neepawa Boys Band of 1919. This is just one of the features, courtesy of the Beautiful Plains Museum. Next is the Spruce Plains RCMP report by Corporal Jacob Stanton. During the week of August 16th to the 22nd, Spruce Plains RCMP dealt with 58 police activities. On October 16th, RCMP responded to a domestic assault in the RM of North Cypress Langford. The suspect had left the residence but eventually turned themselves in to the police. One person was charged and remanded into custody as a result. Police received a report of a stolen utility locator in Minnedosa. The matter is still under investigation. Police conducted a COVID compliance check at a residence in the RM of Minto O'Donnell, and all persons were found to be compliant. August 17th, RCMP received a report that a person was failing to comply with a no-contact order in Neepawa. The matter is still under investigation. Police responded to a noise complaint at a hotel in Neepawa. Upon police arrival, everything had quieted down and there was no cause for concern. Police received a complaint of a person breaching a court-ordered condition in Plumas. On August the 18th, RCMP received a report of fraud that occurred through a phone scam in Neepawa where the victim lost a substantial amount of money. The matter is still under investigation. Police received another report of fraud in Rapid City. No money was lost and the complainant was reporting for informational purposes only. Police were dispatched to a vehicle versus a deer collision in the municipality of Glenella, Lansdowne. The vehicle was towed, however, there were no injuries. August the 19th, RCMP responded to a motor vehicle collision where the mechanical arm of a garbage truck accidentally smashed the window of a business in Neepawa. Police received a report of a suspicious vehicle in the RM of Rosedale. There was insufficient evidence to proceed further. Police received another report of a suspicious vehicle parked on an approach to a field in the municipality of Westlake Gladstone. The matter is still under investigation. On August 20th, RCMP received a 911 call to assist with an injured person who was stranded at a business in Neepawa. Upon arrival, it was determined that the person was not injured and was just hoping to receive a ride to Portage la Prairie. Police attempted to contact family members of the stranded person and reminded them that the police are not a taxi service. Eventually, a family member showed up to provide a ride. Police received a report of ongoing mischief in Kelwood. The complainant was spoken to, and at this time, no further police action was required. October 21st, RCMP received a report of a suspected impaired driver in the RM of Oakview. Patrols were made and neighboring police agencies were notified to be on the lookout, but the vehicle was not located. Police received a complaint of mischief in Gladstone where a vehicle had been spray painted. There was insufficient evidence to proceed further. Police responded to a commercial alarm in the municipality of Glenella, Lansdowne, that was determined to have been set off by the thunderstorm that was occurring at the time. August 22nd, RCMP conducted well-being checks on persons in Minnedosa and Gladstone and conducted proactive traffic enforcement engaging with several motorists. RCMP conducted 19 traffic enforcement actions during this reporting period. Now for our Rural Outlook page. It says Alonza Go-Getters 4-H Club Update. And we have a picture of 5 members of the Alonza Go-Getter Club, which has seen a busy year this year. The group participated in virtual events to show off their livestock. This is by Alois Good. Our little club has had a very busy year. All of our meetings have been virtual on Zoom. Our bee pollinator fundraiser was very successful thanks to the community of Alonza. We were lucky enough to receive startup donations from the RM of Alonza, the Alex Robertson Museum of Alonza, Westlake Watershed District, FCC Agriculture, and Don and Doris Fletcher. We were proudly represented at the 4-H Provincial Communications event by Coulter Chirpin, who won first place in the junior division, and Emily Turco, who won second place in the Clover Bud division. We participated virtually with the Dauphin and District 4-H Beef and Sheep Show and Sale. A huge thank you to all the buyers and bidders. Coulter Turpin's calf was purchased by Virginia Fox, and Alois Good's calf was purchased by the Dauphin Vet Clinic. We had a small achievement day at the beginning of July so that we could practice showing our animals and so that our members, Sheridan Chirpin, Ella Davis, and Emily Turco, could also show their heifers and calf projects. We want to thank Lindsay Chirpin for reviving our 4-H club and for keeping us safe during this past year. Take care and stay safe. And here is the update for Happy Rock Horseshoes 4-H Club, also by Eloise Good. This has been a crazy and unpredictable year. We were not able to have any in-person meetings, so all our meetings were virtual on Zoom. Once restrictions were lifted, we were able to have in-person ride nights. Our club had our achievement day August the 8th. All members did a verbal presentation and demonstrated their riding abilities in the morning. In the afternoon, we had fun running, barrels, pole bending, and other fun games using our horses. It was great to see everyone again. Our club would like to send a huge thank you to Martine Davis, for keeping up to date on all the COVID rules and for keeping us safe. We would also like to thank our project leaders, Heather Davies, Megan Hall, and Jody Davis, for making our Zoom meetings interesting and for guiding us through ride nights. Okay. And this whole page has some pictures on it, and it's entitled Having an Ice Time in Neepawa. Installation and painting of ice takes place at the Yellowhead Arena. With the installation and painting of the ice at the Yellowhead Center in Neepawa early this week, it's starting to feel more and more as if local hockey and figure skating will finally be back in our lives. Yellowhead Center Maintenance Manager Mike Spees and a group of volunteers worked for several days on the preparations to get the ice surface put in place and looking sharp for the upcoming fall and winter season. The people who assisted Spees with the work were Wyatt Negavan, Ronnie Murray, Cooper Kasprick, Gatlin Platt, Zach Platt, Riley Davey, Wiley Spees, and Vinnie Livingston. The Yellowhead Center will be reopening to the public in the near future. A formal public announcement is expected soon. And here you can see the new logo for our local teams called the Titans. From Local to International Overnight by Casper Werhan. After several hours of pedaling and sweating, Ride Like Oli came to its conclusion on August the 21st. The mountain biking event was organized by Minnedosa's Valley Life Recreation Inc., or VLR, in honor of Oli Hay, a young and aspiring athlete who passed away at the age of 12 on July the 10th this year. Though the path was long, stretching from Inglis to Riding Mountain National Park's East Gate, Dave Tournier, board chair for the VLR, told the Banner and Press that the team handled it quite well. The team overall handled it very well. Were there moments that many of us doubted we'd be able to complete it? Yes, absolutely. We also had one tire flat, aching backs, sore butts, and knees that weren't cooperating for some, said Tournier. But the most difficult section, and by far the longest leg of the ride, was between the first and second check stop, kilometer 47 to kilometer 105. Those 58 kilometers took us 4 hours to complete and drained everyone far more than any of us realized they would. Tournier added, the second check stop was a longer stop than we planned for, but we came out of it completely re-energized and motivated by the support we received. The news that the donations had really exploded by that point, and of course, in remembering why and who we were riding for to start with. It was at that point as well that the team, made up by VLR board members Richard Dupuis, Paul Archbutt, Tim Fricoda, and Tournier himself, Chris Wolfenden of Dauphin, Kevin Earl of Morden, and parents Rob and Lee Hay were joined by Oli's sister Ava and other family members. This joining added a new and fresh energy to the team to help them finish their 13-hour journey. Completing the ride and crossing the finish line was truly a difficult moment to really describe, Tournier explained. Our team pushed themselves past the point that many honestly felt they could perform. From having questioned our ability to complete the bike ride around the 80 or 90 kilometer mark to then finishing the entire thing was truly overwhelming. Out of the hours spent completing this bike ride, Tournier told the Banner and Press that 9 hours, 57 minutes, and 44 seconds were spent in active transit. The goal of the event was to raise $100 for every kilometer traveled. With the path taken totaling 172 kilometers, VLR was shooting for a total of $17,200 to be donated to the Squirrel Hills Trail Park in Ole's name. This goal was not only met, but smashed. The donations toward Ride Like Ole have risen dramatically in the time since the ride, said Tournier. As of 2:30 p.m. on August the 24th, donations have already gone past $27,000. We continue to be in awe and disbelief every day as it grows, watching people wanting to contribute in Ole's name and play some part in helping his legacy find a great home in our coming trail park. Tournier expressed that he wasn't sure that any of the riders, board members, or members of Ole's family could truly sum up how they feel about the support received. To be honest, it's been rather overwhelming, Tournier expressed. What we initially thought would be a relatively local event became almost overnight a story that grabbed the attention of people from across the province and then truly Canada-wide. We've received donations from as far away as New Zealand in Ole's name. I think the best way to explain the support is just to reinforce that this is evidence of the strength and uniqueness of Ole and the impact his story and who he was as a person has had on people. The ripples that he continues to create in the world since he left us is truly extraordinary. We simply provided a platform for him and who he was, and there truly isn't any greater honor than that. The riders, our board, the support crew, and Ole's family are so full of gratitude for what this event became. And it goes on to say, if I can turn the page. Lee, on behalf of the Hay family, told the Banner and Press that everyone is deeply grateful for the support that Ride Like Ole has received here across the country and the world. Ole would not be who he became without the year-round worldwide trail community that became such a huge part of his life. We are thankful to Valley Life Recreation for sharing his story and are so supportive of the incredible trail system they are building. Ole would be so proud to be part of something that will benefit an entire community, said Lee. The entire ride was filled with an emotional electricity that would make Ole proud. As a family, it was a very emotional yet healing day. To have a group of 7 riders and then some as the ride went on, some who knew each other, some who did not, support each other physically, mentally, and emotionally through a tough 172-kilometer mountain bike ride is amazing in itself. However, to add the support crews, the aid stations, the pilot vehicles, the cheerleaders, the families, the friends, the community members, the strangers, and support from people around the world all pull together to create a movement much bigger than ourselves was something so incredibly special to be part of. In his final thoughts, Tournier said he hopes that this story inspires others, stating, "We hope this ride, and through it, in learning who Ole was, inspires people to get outdoors, explore trails, and live with the zest for life that Ole was so well known for. Whatever you do, go out and ride, run, ski, hike, and live like Ole." The VLR is continuing to work with the Hay family and the trail designers for the Squirrel Hills Trail Park to plan the best way to ensure Ole's legacy lives on through the trail park. And there are a few pictures to show you. Here is one of Lee Hay taking the front of the pack on Ole's bike to lead the group as they neared the finish line on their long, tough journey. And here we have a picture of the entire Ride Like Ole team. They stopped for a photo on this lookout just before making their descent to Riding Mountain National Park's East Gate, their final destination. The team started at Inglis and biked the long trail to raise funds in honor of Ole Hay to be donated to the Squirrel Hills Trail Park. Here we have Misha pictured up front. Misha Frakoda and Lev Frakoda, and in the back line we have Tim Frakoda, Kevin Earl, Richard Dupuis, Paul Archbutt, Lee Hay, Ava Hay, Rob Hay, and Dave Turnier. And here we have a picture of them embarking on leg 2, part 1 of their long trek. This was just before they all realized just how long, slow, and hard that particular 58 kilometers would be to complete. And here we have Rob making his way across a rather wet part of their biking trail as Lee watches from a distance and waits her turn. Okay, what's next? Next we have Carberry North Cypress Langford News, called Here and There by Gladwin Scott. Here we have a picture of Esme and Bodette Cassan at their lemonade stand. Just over $100 was raised from the stand, which the youngsters donated to the local food cupboard. Carberry Communities in Bloom Yard of the Week went to Wayne Finlayson and Bev McDonald at 340 Wheatland Drive. To get the real view of their gardening, you have to see the north side of the house. 29 foursomes participated in Carberry's Big Hole tournament, which saw the golf cups enlarged from 6 inches to 10 inches in diameter. Ladies' longest drive went to Whitley McCullough, and ladies closest to the pin went to Olivia Gessner. Congratulations to longtime Sandhills Club member Brian Salt, who scored a hole-in-one on number 5, witnessed by Al Fellowich and Lyle Nelson. Also, congratulations to Linda Dick, who recently aced number 4 hole at the Neepawa Golf Course, witnessed by Bev Davey, Suzanne Nicholson, and Gail Johnson. Linda will also be golfing in the Manitoba Baseball Hall of Fame tournament at Neepawa, August the 27th, with Ron Seafoot's family foursome. Her father, Morris Seafoot, longtime Riverside Canucks third baseman, was inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame in 2007. Her uncles, Keith, Garth, Cliff Seafoot, and Gord Hunter are also members. Carberry's Caden Bean clouded a home run and was the winning pitcher in relief as the Pembina Hills under-13 baseball team edged Winnipeg North 3-2 at Portage on August the 15th. The Winnipeg squad had taken the opener 15-4. Pembina Hills have another doubleheader in Portage against Winnipeg South, followed by playoffs August 25th to 28th. Jara Green, our firefighter extraordinaire, came home for a couple of days respite and will return north to complete her 4-month tour ending August 28th. Interesting hitchhiking video being picked up by a helicopter. One of my all-time favorite movies was Field of Dreams, filmed in 1989 with Kevin Costner as the star performer. It was filmed in an Iowa cornfield with the main theme being, "If you build it, they will come." Many thousands of fans enjoyed the movie. The modern version of Field of Dreams, between the mighty New York Yankees and the East Division leaders, the Chicago White Sox, was played in Dyersville, Iowa, August the 12th, before 8,000 fans and millions of television viewers. The opening ceremonies included Kevin Costner's introduction with the Yankees and the White Sox players entering the playing field from the cornfield in center field. After the national anthem and an airplane flyover, the baseball game was extremely exciting. Chicago clouded a 2-run homer with 2 out in the last of the 9th to win 9-8. New York had scored 4 times on a pair of circuit clouts in the top of the ninth to overcome a 7-4 deficit. With such a resounding success, the Field of Dreams game will be held again in 2022. Glennis Scott and Bob Thompson, 2 of Manitoba's top pitchers in their day, were guides for MacPhail Travel, and their tour bus stopped at the original Field of Dreams. Some ladies had bought a softball and a bat and wanted to have a game of catch and a brief game which the tour guides obliged. This whole event was played during a drizzle, but the passengers could say that they had played ball on the original Field of Dreams. Are there any of MacPhail's tourists who recall that event? The Wings Toward project, located on the west side of the Carberry Museum, has been made possible by the financial support of the Carberry and Area Community Foundation, the Town of Carberry, and the Carberry Legion, and the RM of North Cyprus Langford. Some of the special guests for the opening include MP Dan Masier, MLA Eileen Clark, and Stephen Hayter of the Brandon Commonwealth Museum. The official opening will take place Saturday, September 11th at 1 o'clock. There is a 40-page history of the Carberry training base in the local museum. Heather Stephenson, Deputy Premier, has announced that she will be the first competitor for the Premier's position. She is supported by 24 present MLAs and has stated that if elected, her first change would be to repeal Bill 64, the Education Review Act. Okay, what else? All right, now Ken Modell has put in a piece called Cellular and Internet Service Woes. A couple of weeks ago, I got a call from a person who was really upset about poor internet service and cell service. I decided to put out a call for other people's experiences with internet and cell services, and here is a sampling of what I received back. Cell service is poor at the best of times. Dead spots between Kenton and Hamiota and south of Kenton, very frustrating. Many campgrounds provide Wi-Fi passwords to campers when they come into the campground. My phone being from work, the company discourages using a lot of data for personal activities such as Facebook or streaming music. So no big deal if the campground has Wi-Fi, right? What I have never understood is when my phone shows that I have full Wi-Fi power, not one thing would work on my phone. Not even the regular operations of the phone like my email or texting. I had to turn the Wi-Fi off in order to be able to use it. So no streaming my Amazon Unlimited Music that I pay for separately as a modern day convenient. And no or limited Facebook. Let's face it, we are all addicted to that one. Internet. A few short years ago, I paid for the top of the line that you could get from the MTS in town. So today we struggle to have 2 kids' computers and the parent cells running off of that Wi-Fi. And an interesting part of the last couple years that you didn't mention, those farms and rural area kids that had to do the schooling from home and supposedly get an education from live videos. Not on a stormy winter day, they didn't. Another person. At the moment, I have mediocre service for about $70 a month. It's mostly slow, but I do get service most of the time. Someone else. I used to have an MTS 4G internet stick, which was also slow, but better than dial-up. Bell bought MTS and service at my location disappeared. I took up with NetSet, and although other people had issues with them, I found them to be reasonably good. NetSet sold to ExploreNet and service wasn't too bad for a while. Then something changed and I couldn't get any internet response. A tech came out and said my service would have to be terminated. Just like that. even though the tech was able to get me reconnected at that time. After a couple of weeks, the tech came and got my radio and no more service. I complained to the company, told them that I had no other service provider, but they didn't seem to care. Then I talked to an ExploreNet salesman in New Brunswick who set me up with a new account and eventually set me in a different tech. That tech actually got me up and running again, for which I was very grateful. Now I have the mediocre service I mentioned previously, but at least I'm connected. It's a ridiculous situation, really. Someone else. I had a Bell/MTS landline cell and internet for years. It was terrible, and they didn't give a bleep. It was expensive for what we got. Then along came Innet Home/ExploreNet. It was better, but I still had Bell, MTS cell, and landline. TELUS came along when Bell had to unload some subscribers. My TELUS bill was $50 a month less than Bell, plus better service. My ExploreNet is quite slow. It's terrible in the evenings. They have a book full of excuses as to why that happens. No other options until now. We have RF now, more rural, and Valley Fiber plowing in fiber optic lines presently. As soon as they surfaced, Bell suddenly is plowing in cherry-picked, denser populated area lines. Hopefully these fiber optic lines will be more reliable and faster, making it possible to conduct business in our rural settings. Someone said, how bad is it anyway? Good service. This is a reader between Neepawa and Minnedosa. Someone else said, United States plays a huge role in the suppression of this technology. We need leaders in this country that are not in the pockets of this country. Big tech is a nasty business that needs to clean up its act. This technology is being used in all the wrong ways and is disgusting. Someone else said, I live in Kelwood. My internet is through Bell MTS because that's currently the only choice. When I lived in Winnipeg 2 years ago, I would never use Bell MTS or MTS before bought by Bell. The customer service is the worst across the board than any other company I've ever had to deal with. Now, from a reader in southern Manitoba. I'm blessed with the best Wi-Fi and internet service that I did not ever think my money could buy. In August 2018, Valley Fiber installed and turned on my Wi-Fi at 150 Mbps down and 60 Mbps up, going from Bell MTS at 3 down and 0.3 up. Unbelievable. Yes, where before it took 15 minutes to upload a 2 MB image and send it via email. Now I uploaded 50,000 images to my iCloud that evening. The speed went from 150/60 to 150/150. Absolutely imperative for my blogging and journalism business. Recently, 250/250, all for $94 a month, taxes included. Very few hiccups. Of course, when my 6 grandchildren come for sleepover, we can use as many devices, YouTubing and gaming as we want. It does not slow down. A+++. I also use my iPhone 10s on Wi-Fi, and it comes on as I turn into my driveway. Cell service outside of my home is good to mediocre, to bad to non-existent. In parts of Winkler, the signal drops to 0. I drive to Winnipeg either number 3 or number 23 highway, and the service drops off to 1 bar less. There is a stretch from Kane and west, then going east to Sperling, where some days nothing and some days a little service. Someone else said, my cell is through Fido, and I find it marginally better than others. I worked for Fido briefly and learned how different providers share towers. We need more towers. We have value too. I use my phone to listen to music coming to Neepawa for work and going home. It always cuts out either side of Riding Mountain. I'm signed up for Starlink, so here's hoping. And lastly, my spouse and I have lived in Plumas for over 10 years. Almost every year I have contacted MTS, which is now Bell MTS, about the cell voice reception in the town of Plumas. No one can give me an answer when we will have cell voice reception. In fact, I get told to drive out any direction half a mile from Plumas for a reception. Not acceptable any longer when the northern population of Manitoba has better reception than Plumas. For higher internet speeds, I am told to upgrade my service to a higher speed at a higher cost. Okay, now about, this is an article by Sean Kabak from Manitoba Agriculture, saying producers will need to stretch out hay supplies. USDA released its August 1st cattle on feed report, and it can be viewed as neutral, as July placements and marketings were in line with expectations. Cattle on feed inventories are seasonally declining and usually bottom in September. This is the second consecutive month that cattle on feed inventories have been below last year. Cattle on feed inventories totaled 11.1 million head, 1.7% lower than last year, but 2% larger than the 5-year average. August 1st, cattle on feed inventories are the smallest since 2017. Fed cattle marketings for the month of July were 5% lower than last year. There was one less marketing day this year versus last year. Placements for July were 8% lower than last year. As of August 23rd, 60% of corn acres were rated in good or excellent condition compared to 64% last year. 85% of the corn was in the dough stage, 4 points ahead of the 5-year average. This week's 56% of soybeans in the good or excellent categories is 13 percentage points behind 2020. At 88% setting pod, the crop is 1 percentage point ahead of the 5-year average. Spring cereal harvest is all ahead of last year, with 77% of the wheat, 80% of the oats, and 70% of the barley in the bin. This is 22, 6 and 9% points ahead of last year, respectively. Pasture and range is slightly better than 2020, at 29% in the top 2 categories. With hay crops down significantly, many cattle producers will be faced with the forage shortfall this winter. Producers will have to consider a variety of alternatives to help stretch out the sparse hay supplies. Annual crops such as oats, barley, wheat, sorghum, or millet can all be cut for green feed or silaged. The optimal time of harvesting cereals for green feed or silage is in the early to soft dough stage. At this stage, quality and yield is maximized. Corn stover, cereal, or pea straw can be fed with cattle preferring oat or barley straw ahead of wheat. 1-year-old straw is preferred even more by livestock. Grain, screenings, and other alternatives such as potatoes and veggies can be a good source of energy for cattle. Certain precautions need to be taken with certain feeds, but the wonderful part of feeding a cow is she can digest almost anything. When feeding a high-fiber feed such as straw, adequate energy is required to avoid compaction. Grain should be fed to avoid this, the amount varying on the level of straw fed. If feeding screenings, be sure to test for ergot, which becomes concentrated in the screenings. Cattle can tolerate higher fusarium levels in the grain, so grain unsuitable for hogs works well for cattle. Turf-type perennial ryegrass straw can be reasonable quality as long as the endophyte levels are monitored. A lot of different feeds can be fed to cattle in the rations if the rations are properly balanced. It may take some feed testing and a bit of extra work, but your cows will thank you for it later. Annual forages, including oats, barley, millet, and sorghum, are susceptible to nitrate accumulation if stressed prior to harvest. This stress can be from a variety of factors such as drought, frost, or hail, and depends on the severity. High soil nitrate levels can result in higher nitrate accumulation in the plant. A light frost that doesn't kill the plant should not increase nitrate levels if plants resume growth in a day or two. As long as plant leaves can continue to photosynthesize, the nitrates will be used up by the plant. A killing frost or severe drought can cause nitrates to build up and requires immediate cutting of the plant to prevent nitrate accumulation. Perennial forages, such as alfalfa, are at a very low risk of high nitrates building up. With drought stress already causing nitrates to show up this year's annual forages, producers should test their feed. Therefore, they will know how to manage and safely feed it to their livestock. Even if nitrates are present in the feed, it can be fed as long as it is kept at a safe level by blending it down. For more information, contact the Manitoba Agriculture and Resource Development Office in Portage at 239-3352 or Shawn, spelled SHAWN.CABAC at gov.mb.ca. Now, I'll read a little bit while we have time from the Farmers Advocate. There's a nice picture of a combine working on a field. Late summer and early fall is the reason for meals in the field while farmers work to get the harvest in. In this picture, Cam Evans waits to hand Grandma Pat Evans her supper during harvest. This was last year. Excuse me. Here we have tips for safer farming. Tractor accidents, grain entrapment, and injuries from ornery livestock are just some of the dangers agricultural workers face every day. In fact, the National Institute for Occupational Safety and Health says agriculture was one of the most hazardous industries in North America. In 2018, the agricultural industry had a rate of 21.4 deaths per 100,000 workers, and each day agricultural workers experience 100 non-fatal lost work time injuries. Agricultural dangers are not limited to North America. In Ireland, farm accidents have increased by 13% in the last 5 years and by 31% in the last decade, according to a national survey of farm accidents conducted by the TGAS National Farm Survey. Furthermore, 97% of all farm accident victims required medical treatment. Farms are dangerous places, and while carelessness can and does contribute to many incidents, accidents also take place during routine, seemingly safe activities. These farm safety guidelines can help lower the risk of injuries. First, know your farm equipment. Read and follow all instructions in the equipment operation manuals. In addition, attend local farm safety workshops to learn more about safety equipment and products. Conduct routine safety checks. Look around buildings and grounds for obvious hazards such as fire hazards and hazardous materials, including farm chemicals that are not stored correctly. Also, practice cleanliness. Maintain clean and neat work areas with tools stored properly and out of the way after use. Also be mindful of your clothing and hair. Many accidents involve a power takeoff system, or PTO, which is a common component of large rotary mowers, tractors, and forage choppers. Anything can easily get caught in an engaged but unguarded PTO stub. It's easy for laces or coveralls to become wrapped around a spinning stub shaft. The PTO drive line and other protrusion points also can be dangerous if people do not pay attention. Use rollover protection structures. These can be used on tractors and other equipment to prevent injuries. In addition, wear seat belts and employ other safety equipment as advised. Avoid extra passengers. It can be tempting to take the kids for a spin, but do not allow additional passengers to ride on agricultural equipment. Exercise caution when handling chemicals. Take extra precautions when handling any chemicals, including pesticides. Wear protective gear. Wear appropriate gear and equipment as outlined by the Mine Safety and Health Administration. Make sure the skin, feet, ears, hands, and eyes are protected at all times. Employ lockout/tagout control. This is a process where one can work on equipment only after every energy source has been controlled, such as hydraulic, pneumatic, mechanical, and electrical, according to Rural Mutual Insurance Company. Turning off equipment and using certain controls or locks on devices can prevent equipment from restarting before it is safe to do so. Farm equipment should be a priority for owners, their families, and employees so that agricultural injuries can be reduced. Now here we have a visual walk through the Southeastern Manitoba Zero Waste Project. Here we have Gavin Reynolds with a gasifier. And here we have a front end loader taking a large portion of waste and prepares to place it in the gasifier. And here is a load of waste going into the gasification system. And here, technicians keep a close watch on the gasifier test results. And here is a full view of the gasification system. This system underwent its first testing on August the 12th. The Manitoba government has extended the application deadline for Ag Action Manitoba Assurance Beneficial Management Practice to October the 1st from September 1st. This was announced by Agriculture and Resource Development Minister Ralph Eckler. He said, as our dry weather continues, we are committed to ensuring that agricultural producers have options when it comes to dealing with this drought. By extending this application deadline, we will ensure that more producers will be able to apply and get assistance when they need it the most. The Ag Action Manitoba Program Assurance under the Canadian Agricultural Partnership helps agricultural producers protect ground and surface water sources that are essential to ensuring the health of livestock and groundwater resources. To date, the province has received almost 100 applications for a total of $630,000 in funding for the Managing Livestock Access to Riparian Areas MBP. Items eligible for cost-sharing funding include water resource development, constructing new or rehabilitating existing wells or dugouts, solar, wind, or grid-powered alternative watering systems, permanent fencing to resist livestock access to surface water and dugouts, and permanent pipeline development. Early weaning of calves, an option during periods of drought and excess moisture. Beef cows are amazing mothers, especially during periods of drought or excess moisture when pasture quality or quantity are limited. The cow will sacrifice her body condition and ultimately next year's reproductive performance by continuing to produce milk even when pasture quality or quantity are too low to support her basic maintenance requirements. Early weaning of the cows can alleviate some of the nutritional pressure on the cow, allowing her to remain on pasture longer, improve her body condition, and ensure high rates of reproductive performance. Normally, beef calves are weaned at 6 to 7 months of age. However, several studies have indicated that cows weaned as early as 2 months of age can perform well in terms of grain and overall performance when fed well-balanced diets which meet the animal's needs. Early weaning can occur when calves are between 1 to 5 months of age. When pasture is scarce due to drought or excess moisture, weaning at 3 to 5 months of age is a viable option to lower the cow's requirements and put less pressure on the pasture. Overstressed pastures not only take longer to recover, but the plants are less vigorous, therefore allowing undesirable plants to invade your pastures. Even though early weaning is a viable option, there are several management decisions a producer must consider, both positive and negative. The advantages are lower nutritional requirements for cows and heifers on pasture, improved body condition and subsequent reproductive performance of cows and first calf heifers, extended grazing period on pasture allowing for improved grazing management and improved efficiency of gain for early weaned calves. The disadvantages are the following: higher labor requirements, facilities and feed required for early weaned calves. Early weaned calves can be more susceptible to stress and related health problems, especially if proper nutrition and management practices are not adhered to. Early weaned calves may have lower carcass weights or become fatter at lighter weights. Overall, early weaning of beef calves is a viable option, particularly during periods of low quality and quantity of feed on pastures. Now, the last thing I'll read, I just have enough time for one more, and I think I'll read Homebodies by Rita Friesen. It's called Listening with Intent. It never ceases to amaze me when someone throws one of my quotes back at me. It would seem that some of my quotes are remarkable, some absurd, some entertaining, and some unforgettable. And I am merely speaking. As I reflected on this, 2 conversations with extended family members came to mind, and how the impact of simple exchanging of ideas has made a lasting impression on my thinking, my actions, and me. Another quote that ties into this is the one that states that most of us listen with the purpose or formulating a reply or a rebuttal, not to learn. When I was in my early 20s, an older cousin that I admired then and now spent some time in Mexico attending a university there and touring. At a gathering, he was asked about various aspects of Mexico. With care and consideration, he would preface his comment with, "From what I saw," or "from what I experienced." Way back in the 60s, my cousin would have been considered a world traveler, not just from his time in Mexico, but by his general travel patterns and habits. He never assumed that by spending time in a country, he had become an expert on the people, place, or customs, but would comment on his own actions and interactions. Since then, I have encountered individuals who have spent a brief time at a vacation spot in another country that become experts of that nation and its citizens, and are all too willing to expound on their assumptions. A lesson I learned from Bill is to clarify that my remembrance of a travel destination are just that, my remembrances, not a complete summation of another nation. Some years later, a comment one of my uncles made left a positive, lasting impression on me. My uncle is Jamaican by birth and heritage. He adapted well to marrying into a Mennonite family, and he is an engineer. We are a family, the Taves side, are a little lax when giving traveling instructions. We all knew the landmarks and the approximate distances and were too often unclear and indistinct when sharing how to arrive at one's destination. One of the better stories is about my father picking up two of his sisters and driving to Steinbach to attend family funeral. They got talking, missed the turn off to Steinbach, and realized their error at the Ontario border. They missed the service. After a few years in the family, in a quiet conversation, my uncle explained that when we gave unclear directions or were late, this showed a lack of respect and appreciation. I heard him. I try now to give clear directions, and I try to be prompt for meetings, casual or earth-shattering. I continue to learn, to reflect before speaking, and to listen with intent. So that does it for this week in reading the Neepawa Banner and Pressed. Thank you for joining us, and hopefully we'll see you again next week. Bye for now.